What if the thing you're waiting to feel before starting is the thing you will only get by starting? Hello, beautiful people. I am Love Ravina, and you're listening to Version by Version, the Love Ravina podcast. In this episode, I am going to share with you my answer to the question, why do we wait to feel ready before starting? Now, this question and my answer to the question are both very personal and close to my heart because it has something to do with this podcast. You see, for context, I started my podcast in 2023, but even before that, I've always wanted to have my own podcast, but I kept postponing. And when I finally started in 2023, I have been very inconsistent. Like in this span of 3 years, I've had many times where I took long breaks or I just disappeared suddenly, irresponsibly, and just was very, very inconsistent about maintaining and continuing the podcast. And so I had this opportunity to finally reflect on my experience and really think about the reason why I operated that way, why I postponed starting the podcast earlier, and why when I started, I was very inconsistent. And the answer that I found is that I was waiting to feel ready. I was waiting to feel ready, ready to begin the podcast, ready to start over, ready to begin again. I was just waiting to feel ready before I could start, which was crazy because now I am realizing that we can only be ready to some extent. Okay? What's important is the idea that we took the first step and just started. And so I reflected on my experiences and my experience. And looking back, I realized I had a very weird and crazy, absurd to some extent, definition of being ready. Okay? Like, what does being ready really mean? And so I asked myself that question and I look back on when I started in 2023 and then 3 years later, what was being ready to me? I realized that readiness to me was actually expecting some conditions to happen before I take the first step. So at the time when I first started this podcast, the first condition that I was waiting to have or to gain was credibility. I really believed that podcast is only for experts. And so if you're not good at something, if you're also not good at speaking, then I thought you have no right to start a podcast. That was like what I believed at that time. Credibility. So if you don't have credibility, don't start a podcast. The second condition that I thought would make me ready to start was a lot of ideas. Like I thought for you to start a podcast, you need to have a lot of ideas. Because, of course, in a podcast, you'll be talking about something, right? And so you need to have a lot of like these ideas that you can talk about and share with other people. And so if you don't have those ideas, then you should not be starting a podcast. So that was the other condition. Another condition that I was waiting and I was expecting before I could start is the listeners or the audience. I believed for you to have a podcast, you need to have listeners or audience first. If you don't have that, then don't start the podcast. And the last condition was confidence. I thought for you to start a podcast, you need to have the confidence of having a podcast. If you're listening to me, I am not sure if you have noticed, but all of these conditions that defined readiness were conditions that you can actually get only when you start. Credibility, ideas, audience, confidence, these are basically outcomes, not prerequisites. These are things that you can only get, I could only get the moment I started. And that is, you know what, when I really was thinking about this experience, like I was so mind blown by my own realization. Like, what the heck? All this time, I have been measuring myself to the wrong metrics or to the wrong conditions or definition of readiness. Like, isn't that crazy? And I've decided to share this finally with you is because maybe you have also been defining readiness in a way that is hindering you from actually starting and, from just moving and taking action. So that was me. Like, that was my definition of readiness. But then over time, I could not clearly remember what triggered me when I first recorded my very first episode, which was, by the way, it was an audio podcast. It was an audio version. And I tell you, don't listen to it now. I'm just kidding. But if I listened to my very first episode, it was so cringy. Like, it was so weird. It was not so me. Like, it was not it was not something that I imagined it to be. But that is okay because that very first episode led me to where I am right now. I think I am now recording my 34th episode. This is now my 34th episode, which can be quite a little for 3 years, but still, 34 episodes is still like a big or huge win for me. Okay. And so I was really thinking to myself, like, love, you are crazy. Like, why did you expect yourself to have these conditions before taking action? And you know what? Like, I really didn't know why. Perhaps nobody really told me about it. Like, I think most of the things that I'm learning, I mean, most of the things I'm learning and sharing with you right now, those are things that I have discovered. It wasn't really something that people explicitly taught me or told me about, but those are things that I got from intentional reflection and intentional practice. And so, what changed over time is that I found, I mean, I found myself, rather, I found myself people or role models, people I look up to, and even mentors. And so I look up to Leila Hormozi. I'm not sure if you know her. I also look up to her husband, Alex Hormozi, um, Caleb Ralston. Like, these individuals, even Gary Vee, like these individuals who are successful. And I have noticed that they are relentless in their pursuit of becoming the person that they want to be and achieving whatever goals they've set for themselves. And I think I would love to believe that these people had moments in the past where they maybe doubted themselves and hesitated to take action. But like looking at them right now, they're also relentless in terms of just moving forward. And that is like one quality that I want to have or aspire to gain as well. And so it's important to me personally that I'm sharing this with you because it is also like my way of really, well, number one, noticing my own experience and my decisions and my actions, and number two, calling myself out. Like telling myself, love, okay, stop it, all right? Those conditions that I have set initially that I once believed were needed or necessary before I can take action, now I have shifted my thinking. I have realized that I need to take the action first before I can have these conditions. So that was like the biggest mindset shift that has happened to me in the last 3 years. Okay, it took me 3 whole years to finally understand this and to finally like really gain and at the same time put this into my reality. 3 years. All right. And I'm just telling you this in less than 30 minutes so you will not make the same mistake that I did. But again, the mindset shift was from conditions to actions. It's now actions to conditions. Meaning to say, I just need to take action. I just need to take the first step to move forward, scared, uncertain, uncomfortable, whatever that is, before I can get these conditions. For example, for me to get the credibility I wanted as a leader, as a communicator, a speaker, of course I need to show up and I need people to see me more. That's the one of the ways I can increase my credibility is when people see me and really see how I talk, how I speak, and the lessons I'm learning and the lessons that I'm still trying to learn as well. That will increase my credibility over time, not overnight, but it will accumulate in the future. And I'll be grateful. I'm even grateful, like even now, I am so grateful that to my younger version that she decided to start. Though it took her a while, but she did start because she, like that version of me, helped me become the person that I am right now. And I know and I'm confident that what I'm doing right now, my future self will thank me for it because I took action, which was important. So that's the first, the credibility. The second condition I shared earlier was about ideas. I really thought, guys, that for me to, I mean, the only way for me to begin a podcast is for me to have like a, a very absurd amount of ideas. Like I need to have a lot of ideas before I can start my podcast. But then when I started my podcast and especially last year when I like became more intentional about it, I realized that ideas just came naturally to me. Like I remember there were even moments that I would just record a podcast episode and then an idea would come to my mind like, oh, this could be another podcast idea or podcast topic whatsoever. So I realized when I took the action, then the ideas just came naturally to me. You see? Action first, then the conditions will happen. And then the third condition was about the audience. This, my goodness, this is like, I think, the craziest of all conditions that I have set for myself. I now I now know, okay, I now know that for me to have the audience or to know my audience and to even have the listeners, I need to offer something of value first. Because people will not listen to me, people will not know me if I will not show myself to the public and release these podcast episodes. Right? I mean, the only way for you to know someone is when you see someone. And so it's the same thing. The only way for me to have listeners or the audience is for me to basically show up, show myself to the world, and just be as crazy and vulnerable and intentional as I am right now. Right? And in that way, I am confident in the long run, I'll be able to meet more people who are going through a similar experience as me, or more people who are also learning the same thing as me. I think the thing that I'm getting now is I just need to let things be, right? Just show up, just produce or create as much value as I could, and the audience and the listeners will follow. That's it. That's a third condition. And the last condition I shared earlier was about confidence. Actually, this year, this is something, no, not just this year, but last year when I first joined my very first, when I joined my very first speech contest, which, okay, this is another podcast idea. I'll be talking about my experience joining that speech contest in another episode. But one of the biggest lessons I have learned last year is about confidence. Most people, including me, wait to be confident or to feel confident before starting, before giving that speech, before doing that solo travel, before investing into something that you find valuable, before talking to someone or, messaging the person that you like. Like, We're all waiting to be, not all, most. Most are waiting to be confident or to feel confident before doing the thing. But I learned over time that confidence, most of the time, is an outcome. It's a byproduct. It's not a prerequisite. Confidence is influenced by repeated actions. The more that you do something, the more that you feel confident. Okay, it's just the same as learning a new skill, for example, or learning a new language. At first, of course, you're a beginner, so you don't know anything about it. You will make mistakes, you will mess up. That's part of learning, right? And that's the beauty of learning because you will also, I mean, you're also growing along the way. And the more that you do it, the more that you practice the skill, the more that you practice the language, for example, the more that you become confident doing it, right? And so the the lesson I'm learning now is I should not be waiting for confidence. Instead, I should just focus my attention, my time, my energy in doing something more intentionally, doing something as effective as I could based on my current capacity or capability. And then confidence will follow over time. It is something that we can engineer indirectly. It's not really something that we can influence right away, but I think it's something that we can engineer indirectly. Am I making sense to you? Like, I don't know about you, but I now think the most people wait to feel ready because they're waiting for something to happen before starting. And they fail to realize that the things they're waiting to feel are the things they can only get by starting. There are a lot of things, my dear friends, that you can only get when you start, when you finally take that first step. If you, for example, you really want to become a good speaker or you want to deliver that presentation or that speech more effectively, then the only for you to actually be a good speaker is to speak, to just utter that first sentence and then carry on. That's it. I know I may be oversimplifying it, but now that I think about it, I really think it's really that simple, you know? But it can be difficult to some extent because of our unique experiences, our unique values, our mindsets, our belief systems. But I think it's just very important that we catch ourselves thinking about that. And so, one thing that I am doing right now, having this realization is that I now see experience and every moment as a learning opportunity for me. Because the thing about me as well, especially when I started my podcast, is it was plainly black and white for me. It was either I succeed in my podcast or fail at it. And again, the crazy thing was success for me was having a lot of subscribers or listeners or being famous or whatsoever. Like, those vanity metrics, they matter to some extent. I will not touch on that. But I think as someone who's still starting, especially in this arena or in this like industry, podcasting is an industry in itself right now. Do not measure yourself to lagging indicators. Instead, measure yourself to leading indicators, those that you can directly influence. The number of times that you upload an episode, how you show up, those things. Those are important things to focus on, I believe, if you are only starting. Right? And I'm still at that phase. Like, I have started, yes, but I would still call myself a beginner in this aspect or in this arena. But the point is, before in the past, I was only looking at my experience as plainly black and white, succeed or fail, right? Because if I tried something and I failed, then I thought I have wasted effort. But then I realized I have wasted so much effort and time ruminating on something that did not matter at all. at least to where I was before, you know? And so now I am starting to see learning as part of the process. Whether I succeed or fail, I will learn something. If, for example, one episode will not perform as good as the other episodes, then that is a learning opportunity for me. Why did it not perform the way I wanted it to? What could have I done differently? What should I try next? What should I experiment around? I am now seeing it that way now. And I think part of what influenced that also was my experience joining a competition, because a competition, like a speech contest, I'm talking about the speech contest, because a competition is really clearly a winner lose, right? And I lost in that speech competition, by the way. I did not place either. But the crazy thing was, I did not really see myself as someone who lost the competition. I saw myself as someone who has gained experience, has learned from that experience, and is now taking intentional action to try again. And it's the same with my podcast. I have paused for a while. I was very inconsistent, but I realized if I really wanted to grow, if I really wanted to become the person I want to be, if I really wanted to serve other people, to create value, to give value to other people, I have to be willing to sit with the discomfort of not succeeding or not achieving what I wanted right away. Because it will take a lot of time, a lot of effort, even maybe years of just doing this repeatedly before I could, I don't know, finally succeed to some extent, right? But what is important and what matters to me right now is that I still catch myself wanting to feel ready, but now I have this mental model or framework per se that I look at or refer to when I feel that. I ask myself, am I not ready because I am waiting for conditions that will only happen when I start or if I start? If the answer is yes, then I should start. I should not wait to feel ready, wait for these conditions to happen magically. I don't know. Like, that is just, again, something that I have been reflecting on and thinking about lately. And I guess what's next for me is that I want to keep producing episodes. I want to keep creating value. I want to it isn't really, I wouldn't call it now like courage or being brave, but just making that intentional, conscious, deliberate choice to take action. Because I want to be the person capable of becoming the person that she wants to be, version by version. And it starts with this, for example, my podcast. I want to be the person capable of creating episodes and creating value. That's it. And I really do hope that, at some point you're learning something from this episode, because what I would like to challenge you this week is perhaps you could take some time to think about something that you have always wanted to do, but then you're waiting to feel ready, or you're waiting for something to happen before starting. And then ask yourself the same question I'm asking myself. Are you waiting for something that you can only get when you start? Because if the answer is yes, my dear friends, just start. Okay? Start scared, start uncertain, start uncomfortable, start confused, start cringy, start looking crazy or weird. Just start. Just start. Okay? Okay, so I hope again that you've learned something from this episode. And before we wrap up, I would like to extend My sincere thanks to Bagong Pilipinas Studios Visayas for giving me the space to record these episodes, and of course for helping Filipino creators like me to get started. And so if you're also considering of starting your own podcast or your content creation journey, I would encourage for you to reach out to Bagong Pilipinas Studios Visayas. And to close, I really again do hope that you have gained at least something from this, at least one thing from this episode. And if you do, then please, please do let me know in the comments because I'd like for us to continue the discussion there. And of course, please do subscribe to my channel or the podcast and share this podcast to someone you believe would gain something from this episode. Until next time, remember, we are all a work in progress, one version at a time, and I'll see you in the next version.